Hey everybody, my name is Susan Thomas. Welcome into the 2024 Jewel School Workshop. Today, I'm going to be teaching you how to make bangles. They're actually named Endless Summer Bangles because I don't know, I think they kind of look like endless summer, and also because they are endless. Anyway, we got gemstones and pearls on these. They're really easy to make, and they're a lot of fun. They're very organic. They're a little bit flexible, so they kind of roll onto the wrist, and they just feature different gemstones. I'm going to be doing one similar to this one with a gemstone called hessonite, if you guys have ever heard of it. It is a type of garnet. It's a natural untreated gemstone. I mean, just absolutely beautiful, kind of a deep, rich, amber brown color. And then this one has peach pearls. I'm going to be using white pearls today, and it features some gold wire. But as you can see, they are endless, they are fun, and they are bangles. So we're going to get those going today. Hope you guys are excited about it. If you want to pick up any supplies in the show, I know you can go on jtv.com and pick these up. Everything should be available there. But also, I have to tell you guys, you can use different pearls. You can use different gemstones. You can kind of make this your own. There's lots and lots of ways to make this your own because of colors, gemstones, you know, supplies, materials, everything, size, you name it. This is the wire I'm going to be using today, and it is a 24 gauge artistic wire from Beadline. Whatever you do, you can use different 24 gauge wire, but make sure it's a tarnish resistant wire, or one that's that kind of keeps its color basically, and that's pretty flexible. This is a soft wire and it's fairly flexible. 24 gauge is a perfect gauge because it's about a 0.5 millimeter, and it fits right through the pearls and the gemstones. And one of the things you don't want to run into when you're making these bangles is you really don't want to run into wire that doesn't fit through your beads, because it'll just make it a lot more difficult. So as you can see on this one right here, the wire actually goes through the beads, and it also kind of goes around the beads as well. And so there's going to be a lot of room for it to kind of get a little sturdier. Okay, so you'll need those, and then I'll pull off my other supplies here. And what I've got is like a little triangle tray. I love triangle trays. You guys will learn this about me. They're just a great way to hold on to things. But this is going to be my 6x4 millimeter pearls. And to make a medium bangle, you're going to need about 28 of those. To make a larger one, you'll need a couple more. Make a smaller, you'll need a couple less. As far as this little guy, this is kind of my connector bead. On this particular bangle, I decided to make it really easy for you guys to connect them together and make them endless. So we're going to use a slightly larger hole bead right there. And then these are my gemstones. These are the hessonites in here. There's also some citrine and some sapphires and some moonstone. Just so you guys know, you don't have to use exactly the same gemstone that I'm using today. These are just gemstones that I like. I love those colors. So what colors do you like? What gemstones do you like? Those can be the ones that you put on your bangles. Now, you don't need a lot of tools to do this. I actually have a bracelet mandrel out here. You do not need this. You don't have to have it. These are very organic. You can shape them with your fingers, but if you're like, I don't know, a little bit of a perfectionist, you can use the mandrel to shape them up. But you will need a really good flush cutter. And I always recommend this one. It's called, what we call it Flyer 61. It's actually from Beadline, but it's an Italian flush cutter that actually cuts the wire flush. You can see mine is actually labeled right there with someone's initials who are not mine. I've stolen this from my friend Katie, who will also be doing some workshops here during the 2024 Jewel School workshops. But anyway, it's a great flush cutter, so I've stolen it. And then also, this is a little tweezer nose plier. Love this tool from Xuron. I'm gonna get my little hand right there behind it so you can see how pointy that tip is. It just gets really small, but it's also flat on the inside. There's gonna be some little wires that you need to squish down, and so that tool is going to be essential for making this work. Okay, so I'm gonna put those two tools there. I've got my wire here, my beads here, and we're essentially ready to get started. The only thing about this wire, now I actually have a list of notes over here, and I'm going to look at them every once in a while, because it's funny when you invent something, it's really hard to remember exactly how you did it the first time, so I always give myself notes. It says pull 36 inches of 24 gauge wire. Now, that is plenty to make this bracelet in a size small, but if you go a little bigger, you might need a little bit more. Also, I hate running out of wire, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull just a little bit more than 36 inches, just because wire is very inexpensive and it is better not to run out than to run out. Now, if you do run out, I can show you guys how to kind of compensate for that, but we're gonna try not to run out. So I'm just gonna clip that with my flush cutter and just put my wire away for now. So, just like that. Now, this guy's just a long piece of wire, and you're gonna string all of your beads onto this wire. And probably the most boring part of this entire class is gonna be stringing the beads, because I am gonna string them here with you guys today. And we're gonna talk while I do that about some of the different things that are going on here at JTV, and some of the different things that are going on here at Jewel School, and all the fun and all the gemstones that we're using. And so don't worry about that. That kind of gives you time as you're watching this class to string your beads, so you won't miss any of the actual salient details of how to make the bangle. So I just put a little loop at the end of my wire, and it doesn't have to be a pretty loop. I actually even use my tweezer nose pliers to do that. That's just like a little stopper. That is gonna stop the beads from falling off the end of the wire. And believe me, I know it's a long piece of wire, but they will. It's amazing. They will fall off the end. All right, so we're just gonna pull this guy straight, and it's gonna be kind of squiggly and crazy, but we're gonna straighten out the end. And this is 24 gauge soft wire, so I can straighten this end out a little bit with my fingers. If you have a wire straightener, you can use a wire straightener to do that as well. I don't know if you guys know what a wire straightener is, but basically it's just basically a piece of, it's a plier like this one that has some rubberized tips on the end that actually straighten out the wire. And I probably have one behind me. I bet you, I think I see one. Let me look. Let's see. Oh, look, I do see one. This is the Jewel School one. This one's totally fine. You can just take this and kind of just straighten out that wire. Do you have to? No, but sometimes it makes it a little easier to string your beads. All right, so now what you're gonna do first is you are going to put one of these large holed beads on there. This is a very small bead. It's a 3mm bead, and the only requirement of this particular bead is that it has a big enough hole to fit that wire through 2 times. So I'm just gonna turn it to the front there, and you can see, yep, you can fit that through 2 times, no problem. You could even go through 3 times. Now, if you're really fancy, you can actually ream out a pearl or a gemstone bead. You can use that in place of the stopper. But this kind of helps you see where the beginning and the end of the bracelet is, and where to start and finish and everything. So that's what we're starting with. And then I actually have a pattern on my bangles here. You do not need a pattern. You can go completely crazy with this, okay? You can go 2 pearls, 5 gemstones, 5 pearls, 1 gemstone, or you can go, 2 pearls, 1 gemstone, and 3 pearls, 1 gemstone. It doesn't matter. Or you can literally close your eyes and just pick up the next thing. As long as you get the length that you need on the bracelet, you are going to be fine. So I'm gonna start right here with 2 pearls. Now these pearls I'm using right now are slightly smaller than my original prototype. So I'm probably gonna have to use a couple extras, or at least 1 extra one. So I'm gonna start off with 3, just so I have an extra at the beginning. All right, so you put that on just like so, and those go up against your little stopper bead, like this. See how that works? Super easy. I use my little tweezer nose plier, just kind of pull on that, make sure those guys goes over that little end, and I'm actually gonna trim my end just a little bit, just like so. All right, now, next step, we're gonna add our accent beads. So these are gemstones, and I talked to you guys about this a little bit before. Those are hessonite garnet beads. The only requirement I really have for these, I like them to be just a little bit bigger than the pearls, but not by a lot. So you've got a 4x6mm pearl. This is a 5 to 6mm rondelle, and I prefer them faceted, just because I love the way the sparkle of the faceted bead looks against the soft luster of the pearls. That's my choice. You guys do it however you want to. There's no actual rules to jewelry making. I always say that, no rules. Just do it the way you want to, because it's your design. All right, so next we're gonna put on 3 pearls again, like this. And then we are going to add another accent bead. So I'm following my pattern. And the reason I'm following my pattern is because I know my pattern is gonna end up being the right length of bracelet, and so I don't have to think about it. I just follow the pattern every single time, but you can come up with your own pattern. You do not have to use my pattern. You can use any pattern you want to, or no pattern whatsoever, like we talked about earlier. So now I'm gonna go 2 pearls, and I'm just kind of turning my bangle as I go, and then 1 accent bead. These also look super cute if you use different colors on here, like if you use multiple colors, so a multicolored bangle. All right, I got 3. But I found that if you wear them kind of stacked up together, with all these different patterns or all these kind of irregular patterns on them, they look really, really fun. All right, back to the hessonite, like so. So let's see how this is see how it's kind of going. Just a little irregular right there, really pretty. Oh, I didn't know it was on the overhead, that's cool. Look at that. So And you can see there's the only difference between these two is this one is a peach colored pearl and these ones are white. All right, so that was a 3, now I'm back to a 2. That one's next. 1, 2, and that made me think of Mother Goose. 1, 2, buckle my shoe. All right, and then, all right, so now after that, you're going to go into a more tighter pattern. So I'm gonna go, and I like this to have like a little spot on there where there's more gemstones than the other spots. So I'm gonna go every other bead right now. So 1, so I got 2 accent beads. The only hard part about this bangle is putting the pearls on the wire. There we go. And like this, and then next. And if you're not using a pattern, you want to kind of measure as you go along. So say you're not using my pattern, say you're not using any pattern, you're just trying to guess. What we're going for to make a medium-sized bangle is 8.25 inches. So I'm just gonna get my little ruler out here. Rulers are always good things to have on your work surface because it makes it a lot easier to measure as you go along. And right now I'm only at 5 inches. So I am 100% not big enough to make a bangle. And one of the things people don't understand about bangles is bangle size has nothing to do with your wrist size. Bangle size has to do with your hand size because bangles have to slip over your hand. And I happen to have a pretty big hand. I used to be a piano player and I know that I can actually span an octave and a third with my hand, which is a lot of notes. It's 10 notes on the piano. So I actually have to wear a medium-sized bangle because it has to go over my hand. So that's kind of a thing you need to think about. If you have a smaller hand, you are going to have you're going to need a smaller bangle, even if your wrist is the same size as mine. The other thing is some people have different basically dimensions of their hands. Like you can see how my thumb is kind of up here like this, and so I'm looking at this space across right here that I have to fit across. Some people's thumbs kind of come more in line with the forefinger, and so they happen to have smaller hands and bangles fall off their wrist a lot easier. So those people are going to need smaller bangles. So it's really important to pay attention to hand size when you are making a bangle, not wrist size. All right, so I'm going 4 pearls here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then, oh my gosh, we're gonna do something kind of crazy. We are going to put on 2 gemstones in a row. Little accent there. So 1, 2, ooh, pretty. All right, and this might not seem very sturdy right now, but once you wrap the wire around it, guys, it just becomes very, very sturdy, and they're kind of fun because, like I said, they're super flexible. So as you wear them, they're gonna kind of change shape a little bit, but you can shape them back up. And it's just a fun little design. Okay, so that's 3, and then I put another accent on, and then I'm gonna go 4 pearls, and then we're gonna measure. So 4 more, and you know, I can't actually see this wire to string these without my glasses on, so if you guys need a light, magnification, glasses, anything like that, I always recommend grabbing that before you get started. There's no reason to suffer through stringing a bunch of beads if you can't see. All right, so I'm basically just measuring this bangle right now to see if I've made it long enough. And so right now I am at, well, I thought I was at 7 3/4, but I'm really at 7 1/2. And I want to make it 8 1/4 because I'm making a medium-sized bangle. So before I go on and finish this, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about bangle sizes. I've talked to you a little bit about fitting it over your hand and all that, but you know, if you're making bangles and maybe you guys are production artists, maybe you make lots and lots of jewelry and you sell it, and you want to kind of have basic sizes for your bangles. So I always recommend making like small, medium, large. Always having small available, medium available, large available, and those will fit most people. Then if you got somebody with a smaller hand or a larger hand, you can custom make those sizes. But if you want to fit most people, the small, medium, large works. So how do you do that? Well, it's not about putting it on this and sizing it. You really do it by the length of your wire. So my medium is at 8 1/4 inches, my small is an 8 inch, and my large is 8 5/8. I know it's kind of a weird size, but that I've found fits most people in those size ranges. So what I do is once I make those bangles, I pop them onto, I think I've got 2 of these here. I pop them onto my mandrel. Now it can be any mandrel. It does not have to be a metal mandrel like I have here. This is a professional mandrel. It doesn't have to be that because you're not going to be hammering on it. And I put them on here. This is my medium. This is my small. And I mark these so that if I start to make another bangle and I don't have a ruler around, but I do have my mandrel, which I always do, I have these marked. And so I'm just going to put small, right there. So see, it's marked. It's kind of hard to see, but if you kind of look up close, it's a little shiny. It's a very shiny mandrel. Small right there, and I'll just write on here 8 inches. So you can see that. There's my 8 inches, okay. There's my medium, and I'll write on there again, 8 1/4 inches, and then I'm just gonna pretend like I have a large here. So that's medium. See my medium right there? Medium, 8 1/4, and then there's my large right underneath. And I just keep this marked like this. This obviously is a permanent marker that I can remark this with if I need to. I can kind of darken it back up. But those are my sizes. Those are the sizes that I use. And so when these kind of come down here, you'll see that one's my medium, this one is my small right there. And if I was making a large, I could just kind of wrap this wire around there. And as long as the beads met in the middle at that large, I would be at my large size. And I wouldn't have to do any measuring, which is definitely not my favorite, you know, but you can't measure a bangle by just wrapping it around your wrist. It just doesn't work. So, all right, so that's kind of how you decide as far as lengths of bangles. Now, not everybody agrees with Susan Thomas, okay? I'm Susan Thomas, those are my bangle lengths. Some people think they should be a little smaller or a little bigger, and that's kind of your prerogative. Your small, medium, large might be slightly adjusted from that, but I have just found that with the beaded bangles and with regular bangles, those sizes work for most people that think they're a small, medium, or large. All right, so let's keep on rolling here and add a few more beads to our piece. You can see I got all that wire to work with. Don't worry, it's super flexible, so it'll be really easy. So I'm gonna add another accent bead, another piece of the Hessonite garnet to this, and then I'm gonna add 2 more pearls, and then I'm going to see if that is long enough to make my bangle. Let's see here. Pull that on and measure again. So measuring is important. I am not a big measurer. I don't like to measure, but measuring is part of life. So let's see here, especially as a jewelry maker, and especially when you're making something for the first time. So there's my end. Let me make sure I've got this exactly right. Okay, so that looks to be right at 8 1/4. Good. Okay, so let's get these little guys. You're gonna need to use a little bit of this tail of wire, so I need to get my little tiny stopper bead there out of the hole that I made. All right, so what you're gonna do now is you're gonna bring the beads, all those beads, together, but you wanna make sure you have about 3 or 4 inches of wire on the tail side. That's the side that you made that little tiny loop on. Remember that guy, the little stopper loop? Just remember this, that's where we started right there. So on this side, where you made your little stopper loop, you're gonna wanna have about 3 or 4 inches. Always, you know, err on the side of too much. It's just a good rule of thumb. So there's my little stopper bead. I'll pull him out so you guys can see him. That's the one where you started, and that's the one where you're going to kind of finish up the piece and pull it all together. So step beyond that, after we kind of get that stopper bead identified, is to take that long piece of wire from the other side and bring it through the stopper bead. So I'm basically crisscrossing. See, I got a little crisscross right there, crisscrossing the wire and then pulling everything together. So I'm just gonna pull all that wire through. And yeah, it can be a little bit much to work with, but I mean, it's flexible wire. I don't think it should bother you guys too much. So you can see, oh my gosh, look, it's starting to look like a bangle. How much fun is that? But there you are, you've got the whole thing connected right now. Now, how are you gonna make it stay? So the way you make it stay is basically just wrapping the wire. So I'm gonna hold this one tight, and to do that, I'm gonna hold the wire and hold the pearls, and I'm gonna take the small side, the little side, and wrap one time between those 2 beads, and then one time between the next 2 beads, and then one time between the next 2 beads, like so. So as you can see, I'm keeping the wire underneath the beads. Now, that's my choice. I want this to show more bead and less wire, and just have kind of that cute little line between each one of the beads as my accent or my magic little metal moment right there. But you guys can do more wire if you want to. You can see underneath there's a little bit more wire showing. Some people like the wire, some people don't. I am 50-50. Sometimes I like a lot of wire, sometimes I don't. Now on this one I'm gonna go a little bit less wire. So you're gonna trim that off right there. And you're gonna take that, remember the tweezer nose plier? Remember we talked about this guy with its tiny little tip right there? You're gonna take that little tweezer nose plier and you're gonna use that to press this little end in. I don't wanna ever feel that, neither any of your customers or your mom or your sister or your friend or anybody who picks up these bangles, so make sure you press that in really well. Now, we're gonna go to the other side. Get all my stuff and things out of the way here, and you're gonna take that long piece of wire. Now here's where you're gonna have to be careful. Obviously, I have glasses on right now, so I don't have to worry about this getting me in the eye, but you guys, I always say, be careful. If you need safety glasses, you should use safety glasses. You should really probably always use safety glasses when you're cutting wire or working with wire, just because it can get you in the eye. So just protect your eyes, folks. And then I'm going to continue the exact same thing I did on the other side, but I'm gonna go the other direction. So I brought that and I went underneath my pearl and I wrapped one time between the next two pearls. And then I'm going to continue on and go underneath the next pearl and wrap one time. Now, if you look at this, you can kind of see the difference between the segment that I've wrapped and the segment that I have not wrapped. You've got just a little bit of metal between each one. Now, I always say metal makes magic, and I say that for a lot of reasons. It really does pull together a piece by giving it continuity, especially if you bring that metal or draw that metal all the way through the whole piece. It also adds to believability because, as you know, most pieces of fine jewelry are made out of metal. Your chains that you're wearing, they're made out of metal. Your rings, your engagement rings, those things are made out of metal. And we're using a gold metal right now, so that kind of adds a lot of beauty, of flair, of luster, of sparkle, and of value. All right. So let's just keep on rolling. So now at this point, do not worry about the shape of your bangle. It could be an oval, it can be a crazy shape, it can be round, it can be whatever, but do not worry about that. All we're doing now is doing our wrapping. So this should be like the most fun part for you because now you've got your bangle together and you're just decorating it with your metal. All right, so like I said, your metal makes the magic. So your metal is what's gonna pull all this together. All right, so we're just gonna wrap, and each time I'm just gonna go one time between the beads, like so, and then I'm going to take that wire underneath the next bead and I'm going to pull it through and wrap between the next one time. Now, if you are struggling with the wire, it's probably because you're trying to do some kind of crazy things with it. So I'll show you what you do. You come to your next bead and you go over, right? Now you've got all this wire right here underneath your form. So I went over, so I'm under. Now, a lot of people try to take the end of their wire like this. They'll go all the way out to the very, very end of their wire and they try to poke it through. So let me show you. Let's see if you guys can see my end right there. There is my end. And so they'll try to like poke that wire through this and pull all that through. And what you're gonna get when you do it like that is you're gonna get a kink. And the kink is gonna be very difficult to deal with and it's probably gonna cause your wire to break. So instead of doing that, that's a no. If I had a big X, I'd put a big X on that right now. Boom, get rid of that. Instead of doing that, what you wanna do is you wanna take the wire very close to the place where you're working and you wanna push it through. See how I did that? I pushed it through. This is flexible wire, it's not gonna hurt it. Push it through and then pull the wire. And if you watch me, I'll do it again, and if you watch me from like not close up, you're gonna see something kind of surprising. So I'm gonna wrap it around there. I'm gonna push it through right there. All right, now if we do a far away shot of me, I'm gonna show you guys what I'm doing as I'm pulling the wire through. So I'm actually pulling, but I'm straightening at the same time. Does that make sense? So I'm kind of straightening and I go all the way to the end of the wire. And that keeps the wire from kinking as you're working. So I'm gonna go over, I'm gonna push through, and I'm gonna pull and straighten. Because I always say you have to be the boss of your wire or else the wire will be the boss of you. And you do not need the wire to be the boss of you because, I don't know, it's very bossy stuff. It also has a memory, so if you get a kink in it, it'll always get a kink in the same place again. And it ends up being very bossy stuff, and a lot of people say, I can't work with wire because it always goes back in the same place and I make a mistake and I can't fix it. And that's because of that metal memory, and yeah, you're right. So the key is to not let it do anything tricky to start with. So you go over, push through, and pull and straighten. Now, can you still get a kink in your wire? Absolutely, you can still get a kink in your wire. See, I sort of just did, not a bad one, but if you do, like say this was about to be a kink, it was thinking of kinking, right? You just want to kind of uncoil it. Don't try to go the same direction, or don't let it go the same direction it's trying to go. You want to uncoil it right there. You can get a wire straightener, like if you have a wire straightener, and you can kind of straighten that out. Like so. If you don't have a wire straightener, you can take either a flat nose plier or your tweezer nose plier and just kind of flatten that back out right there so that you don't have that kink anymore. Just like so. I find that the faster I go with this, the more likely I am to get a kink, just because I'm not paying attention. So take your time when you're wrapping, and just kind of always make sure that you pull. And if you see something like looping like that, just pull that loop out before you pull it through. All right, so we're gonna keep on rolling. We're about nope, we're not even halfway around the bangle. Gosh, I've been talking a lot. What's going on around here? All right, so we're just going to keep on wrapping and pulling and wrapping and pulling. Now, because I had that one little kind of place where it sort of just tried to kink, it's always gonna try to kink in that same place, so you just have to keep an eye on it. Like I said, you just gotta be the boss of it. Don't let it be the boss of you, or it will. See, every single time it's gonna try to do that, because it has a memory, and it's very long, I guess like elephants, I don't know. Or like your kids. Your kids have good memories too, don't they? They remember everything you ever did that they didn't like. Okay, so here we go. Keep that rolling, like so. Keep on wrapping that bangle. And it looks like I'm gonna have probably just about the right amount of wire. It's amazing how quickly the wire goes, and I swear, when you're making one of these and you didn't pull yourself enough wire, what always happens is it seems like the wire just gets eaten up faster, and you're like, oh my gosh, there's no way I'm gonna make it to the end of this bangle. There's no way I'm gonna make it, there's no way I'm gonna make it, and then sure enough, you'll be like an inch short on the wire. So frustrating. But if you do run out of wire, when we get to the end of this, I'll kind of show you guys how you can add more wire. It's not gonna be as clean or as pretty if you have to add wire, but I honestly don't think anybody's ever gonna notice. This is a very organic bangle. You know, it's very free, it's very fun. It's not something that you have to be perfect on. So they look perfect, but you don't have to be perfect, which is always good, because I don't know many people who are perfect, and I'm definitely not a perfect person. Although I strive for perfection, I found the harder I try to be perfect, the worse it kind of gets. So we just kind of roll through life, right? All right, here we go, like this. I hope you guys are having fun. This is our 2024 Jewel School workshop, and this is the first time we've done it this way. All these videos are available on YouTube. They're all available on our Fast channel, and you can probably find links to them on my social media. My name is Susan Thomas. My Facebook and my Instagram are both JTV Susan, so you can just look me up there. Jewel School actually is part of JTV, so that's how you find me, JTV Susan. You can follow me there, and I would love to have you follow me there. I've also got a Facebook page called The Circle with Susan Thomas, which is a lot of fun. And one thing about The Circle is when the 2024 workshop comes up, I am going to ask, I'm going to make the themes for the Circle week be these particular items. So I want to see pictures of what you guys have done with these projects that I'm teaching you here this year. So I'm excited. I'd love to have you follow me on that Facebook. It's actually a group. It's just called The Circle with Susan Thomas. So you can just follow me there, and I'd love to have you guys. Okay. It's really just a place for you guys to post your work. Now, here is the bangle, and I've kind of come back to where I stopped the other piece of wire. And I could tell because I got back to it, and there's a little bit of metal there. So what you're gonna do now is you're gonna do a little bit of an overlapping, and I like to overlap about 6 beads. So we're gonna go all the way back to, remember our stopper bead right there, and then we're gonna continue on about 3 beads. So you're gonna go over the place where you ended, you're gonna just cover up that little piece of wire right there, and you're gonna come under that next bead, and you are going to wrap. So all these beads down at the bottom near your stopper are going to have 2 wraps between them. Now, right here at the stopper, I like to cover them up just a little bit, so we're gonna actually do 3 wraps right here at the stopper bead. 1, 2, 3. You can do more if you want to. It's not very noticeable in the bangle unless you know what you're looking for. And then keep going under the pearl, wrap. That's 1. That's 2. And that is 3 right there. So see that? Pretty cool. And I'm just gonna go one more because I think it'll be easier to end right over here underneath. And so, yes, I did have it looks like about 8 inches of wire remaining. You can make a ring like this if you want to. I'm wearing the rings, see those guys right there? I'm wearing these little rings, so you can make a ring like this as well if you want to. It's really, really fun and easy, and we might do that next just to kind of give you guys an idea of how that works. So there it is, my little bangle. I'm going to trim this off, and then I'm just going to show you guys how to finish this little piece right here. You're going to grab a tweezer nose plier, and you're just gonna press that in. And a lot of people struggle to press the ends of wire in. I don't know if you noticed, but when I do this, I'm actually kind of rolling the plier so that in the same direction that the wire was already going, and that kind of helps you roll that wire into place. So there's your little bangle. If you have a bracelet mandrel, if you want to, you can take it right now. You can pull this out here and you can put that on there. And look at that, it's a medium. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I made it 8¼ inches and it's a medium-sized bangle. Ta-da! I love it when things actually work out the way I intended them to. You know, and that did. So really cool, I love it. I'm very excited about that. So that's my new medium bangle. And then one more thing I know I want to show you about this before I show you guys how to do the rings that go with this is, and the rings are a bonus. Don't tell anybody I told you about the rings, okay? It's a big old bonus. Okay, now one of the things about this is, what if you run out of wire? Oh my gosh, what are you gonna do? All right, so you finish it just the way I just showed you. So you finish that wire. So then you've got another piece of wire you have to add. Now what I like to do is kind of go next to a larger bead. So right here, and you're gonna give yourself a tail. See that little tail right there? And you are going to wrap it around, like so. And then one more time. You have to do 2 times or it's not gonna stay. And then you just continue your wire the way you were going. So you added it, and then when you finish at the end, you're gonna have that little tail there. You're gonna trim it off exactly the same as you trimmed off another piece, the other pieces. You're gonna trim it off right there, and you are going to press it in to the design with your tweezer nose plier. So it's really not hard to add more wire. It does add like an extra layer of wire in a couple places, but honestly, that's like I said, it's not gonna be noticeable. Nobody's gonna see that. You might see it. You might say, oh, that's one of the ones where I ran out of wire. But nobody else is gonna see your little boo-boo right there. So you just add this in and you finish it off same way. And you know, maybe you wanna go back around that bangle a couple more times and add, oops. Maybe you wanna go around it a couple more times and add, there we go, you know, more wire. Maybe you like more wire. Maybe it feels like a sturdier bangle. If you're doing larger bangles, honestly, you might want to go around another time, because a larger bangle is not going to have as much structure to it just because of the size of the circumference. So if you're doing that, then go ahead, go around another time. Pull yourself another couple feet of wire and go around a couple more times and get a little bit more of that magic metal in there. You know, let the metal come up over the beads if you want to, because that looks really pretty, especially on the gemstones. It really is kind of whatever your passion is. We have finished our bangle, and so I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about how to put them on. Yes, they're flexible. Do not worry about it. They always kind of stay in a roundish shape, I have found. And people they're not gonna buy just one of these, they're gonna want several of them, and they're kind of fun that they're really organic, but you just kind of roll them over your wrist, and since they flex, it's a little bit easier to get them over your wrist. So, and then you kind of see they have that really fun organic shape, and they just kind of sit right there. So the smallest bangle you get on your hand is the best bangle to wear, but that's the best I can do for me, so I have a little bit of play on mine, but they're just really cute and really fun, and they're a lot of fun to stack up together. All right, so I promised you guys a secret project. So this is your secret project for this particular day. Now this, of course, is the Jewel School Workshop. So we're learning how to make jewelry, which is really exciting. I like to make bangles, I like to make rings, so we're gonna do a ring today. And that ring, I'm wearing it on my finger right here. It's actually gonna feature a gemstone. And before I go on, I just kind of wanna give you guys just a little story about me and kind of how I got started. Not just in jewelry making, but really with gemstones in general, because the reason I started making jewelry is because I love gemstones. It's kind of what started this whole, I don't know, part of my life. So when I was little, really little, 8 years old, we used to go, my family and I, with my mom and my dad and my 2 sisters, we used to go up to a place in North Carolina called Highlands. We actually weren't really in Highlands, which is a little fancy. We were down the road a little bit from Highlands, kind of between Highlands and another town called Franklin in North Carolina. And there was a cabin up there. It was not our cabin, it was my mom's friend's cabin. And we would go up there every single summer, and we would play in the creek and just, I don't know what else we did, hike and stuff like that, play in the pond, things like that. But one of the main things that we did while we were up there is we would go ruby mining, okay? And we just called it ruby mining because a lot of the places were called ruby mines because there are rubies and sapphires in North Carolina, which a lot of people don't know. But we would go to these mines and we would actually mine for gemstones. And it was such a fun experience for me. I don't know if I'm just a natural treasure hunter or if I just was enamored by the first gemstone that I pulled out of a bucket of dirt, but it really sparked something in me, and it made me love gemstones, all different kinds of gemstones. I was particularly excited about sapphires when I first started, of course, because sapphire is my birthstone. I'm a September baby, and I discovered a sapphire one of the first times I ever went mining, and we took it in to a guy named Mr. Jackson. There was actually a guy that owned a store, and his name was Mr. Jackson, and the store was also called Jackson Hole. And so we went in there, and he actually cut a window in the stone, or he polished part of that stone, part of that sapphire, and showed me this kind of purple colored sapphire, and I was hooked, man. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. You could pull rocks out of the ground and they have gemstones on the inside, and garnet is very similar to sapphire in the way that it's found. I don't know if you know this, but when you find them, they look like round rocks, like little tiny boulders, about this big, a lot of them. And they just look like a rock, and they're heavy. Like sapphires and garnets, those rocks are heavier than your other rocks. It's kind of an indicator that there are gemstones on the inside, but garnets come like that too. They're like these little ugly boulders, and on the inside, there's, wow. So I also really love garnets. I have for a long time. But anyway, so that's kind of how I got started with gemstones, and it's why I have a tendency to feature gemstones in my jewelry, and it's kind of part of why I got started making jewelry, because I found out that you could actually take a sapphire and somebody could drill a hole in it, and then you could put it on a necklace. And I'm like, what? That was kind of a big moment for me. So anyway, I'm just gonna make a little stopper on the end of this again, and we're gonna make a secret ring. It's not really a secret, I'm just kidding. It's not really a secret, but I'm pulling out, look at this, a different triangle tray. This is my secret triangle tray with the secret beads in it right here. And these are these little peach pearls. They're a little smaller. Now, if you're gonna make a ring like I'm making a ring, don't make the mistake of using big pearls on your ring, because when you're wearing a ring, it's very uncomfortable to have something big and bulky between your fingers. So these are actually 2 by 3 millimeter, or 2.5 probably by 3 millimeter rice pearls, whereas these pearls on my bangle were 4 by 6. So you're gonna go a little smaller on your ring just for comfort's sake. Now, I am going to take this here and start stringing my beads. We are going to start, let me think about this just for a second. I want to have my stopper bead in the center of the wire, so let's see. I put it first. Yes, all right, so we'll put it first. Whew. Was a lot. That was a lot for my brain. Did you see me? I had to think about it for a second. Well, it's a secret, so there's, we're out in the wild, wild west here, showing you guys secret stuff. All right, so we're gonna do 7 pearls on this one, because I'm gonna try to make a size 8, because I know I used 7 on this one and it came out about a size 8. I like to make size 8 rings because they fit both of my first fingers and my middle finger, so I have lots of options to wear the rings. So you're just gonna pop these on here. So I'm gonna grab my glasses. So you see I'm just stringing my beads. That's what a lot of jewelry making is stringing beads. It's kind of neat that gemstones come with holes in them. To me, I think it's a really neat feature. A lot of times people are like, those aren't really gemstones because they have holes. And I'm like, no, a bead is actually a cut of a gemstone. It's just like a marquee cut. I mean, that's a cut of a gemstone. A princess cut, that's a cut of a gemstone. A bead is a cut of a gemstone. So yeah, there's beads in other types of materials, but that's kind of where it all started. So 7 of the pearls, and then you're gonna get your accent bead, and we're gonna go back with that garnet, that hessonite that I had here, and pop that in the center. I'm sorry, I pulled that down because it's a little easier to see against that white background than my blue shirt. And then we're gonna keep on rolling with the beads. One. It'll be pretty funny if I make a mistake and then we have to start over, but I don't think I'm going to. I think it's gonna go well. This is like if you went to a class and somebody said, hey, listen, I just wanna teach you one more thing. All right, 3. Just pop them right on there. This is still 24 gauge wire. I did not change gauges of wire. There's really nothing different about this except for the size of the pearls and the number of beads you're stringing and then the way that we're gonna finish it. So you should be kind of familiar with what you're doing now if you've been watching for the entire class. Now, of course, this is our 2024 Jewel School Experience class. I hope you guys are enjoying it. I don't know whether you're watching on YouTube or you're watching for the first time on jtv.com/extra, or if you're just on jtv.com, but we're super happy to have you guys here. Actually, it's jewelschool.com and jtv.com. Either one of those are places where you can find our supplies for these classes. All right, so here we go. 7 beads on each side, and then boom, accent in the center. Ta-da! Now you're gonna wanna center this up a little bit on this wire. I pulled about a foot of wire, which is a little bit too much, but you know, I always say more is more, so that's what we're gonna do. So we're just gonna take this and we're gonna go through that stopper bead, making sure you've got at least 6 inches or so of wire on each side for the wrapping. I don't think we'll need that much, but that's kind of where we're gonna go. All right, so that stopper bead pulls it together into a ring shape. Nice, right? Pretty good. And so then if you remember what we did on the bracelet, you're gonna do the exact same thing here, except you're not gonna keep going around the ring. What you're gonna do is you're going to wrap this, pushing it through just like we did before, under and around. And we're gonna do both sides before we start continuing, because it's a little trickier to get this to stay than it is the bangle. So that side's done. Make sure you're pulled tight. And let me see if I can pull that a little bit tighter. There we go. Pull tight and then bring this side through. Now see, I'm still pushing the wire through and pulling from the other side and wrapping. Okay, and then I'm gonna go back to this side. And now you're going to wrap between each pearl, just like you did for the bangle. Press through and pull. You're going to wrap, press through, and pull. We're going to wrap, press through, pull, wrap, press through, pull, wrap, press through, pull. And then when you get to the bead here, we're going to create like a little accent on the bead. We're actually going to see how I kind of wrapped several times. I'm going to wrap around and I'm going to create like a little metal accent, which almost kind of gives it a little bit of a bezel set or set look to that particular stone. And you're going to wrap that around 3 or 4 times. I'm trying to get it in I'm trying to be the boss of my wire and make it go where I want it to, but it's not being very cooperative. And then on this one, I'm going to finish off on the other side because we're going to cover that up here in a second. So bring it underneath that pearl, and that's just for structure. I want one of the wires to go underneath my main bead right there because it just kind of gives it a little bit better structure. All right, so now I've got a little bit of wire left. So a foot was just plenty of wire. And clip that off. Use your tweezer nose pliers again to kind of press that down. I just kind of give it a roll as I'm pressing and press it into place, sorry. There we go. All right, now we're gonna do the other side, and you kind of are starting to get the idea, I think, right now. So wrap under, pull through. I'm just gonna remind you guys of my technique here. So you're going over and between each one of the beads, and then rather than trying to poke that in, remember this is a no-no, okay? What you're gonna do is you're gonna push with your finger through the center of the ring. So see my little finger right there pushing through? So I pushed it through, and then I'm going to pull it through there. I'll do it again just so you guys, just in case you didn't catch that. So you're going over and between, and then you're pushing through with your finger and then pulling the wire. If you can't get it with your finger or you have a really short wire, you can grab it with your tweezer nose pliers or any chain nose plier. All right, so keep on going. We're gonna keep wrapping and pushing, wrapping and pushing. And then we're gonna go right here between those two, and you're just gonna wrap just to kind of try to match the other side. So 1, 2, 3. Are we close? Set them on. Oh yeah, that's perfect. And then you're just going to, and you see I'm really kind of working the wire. I'm bossing it around, telling it where I want it to remember to go. And then I am going to, remember I told you, be the boss of your wire, trim that off. And finally, we're going to press that little wire in. And I've trimmed it off underneath, but just a little bit to the side of there. So, because if you go underneath, sometimes if you're right at the very bottom, there's just no way to hide that little tail. So you almost kind of bring it up the side of the ring just a little bit, just so you don't feel it. And that makes your little ring. It's very cute. If you have a ring mandrel, what you can do now is you can grab that ring mandrel and you can pop it on there and just kind of, and I did make a size 8. Look, oh, are you guys impressed? I made a size 8, and I only knew that because I knew the size beads I was using, and I knew, so if you always use a 2.5 by 3 millimeter rice pearl with a 5 millimeter rondelle in the center, that's gonna be approximately a size 8 every time if you use that many beads. Makes sense. But if you're using smaller or larger beads, you're gonna have to work it. And when you're first starting out, I always recommend don't worry too much about sizes and getting everything exactly right. You could actually size everything after you're finished making the pieces, and then just put them into baggies with the size that you made, because then it's sized, you've already made it, just put that in the size 5 pile, and this goes in the size 7 pile. And then when people, when you set up your booth for the very first time, maybe you're selling your jewelry at a bazaar or something. I always say a bazaar, like I don't know where you're gonna go, some sort of craft fair or something like that. And just put all the size 5s in a size 5 tray and all the 7s in a size 7 tray, and people that wear those sizes can try them on. And by then you've figured out how to size them, because you finally, figured out your sizings. And so then at that point, what you can do is you can start sizing them exactly right. But with these rings, like I said, very organic. So you might have like a 7.5 to an 8. But it also just to show you that, folks, you don't have to be perfect. If you want to make jewelry, make jewelry. Don't think that your jewelry has to be absolutely perfect for people to love it. They're going to love it because you made it. They're going to love it because they love gemstones. You're going to love it because you made it. You're going to be excited because you made it. And I'm going to tell you right now, the first pieces of jewelry you make are not going to be perfect. They're just not. And I think it's a lot of pressure to put on yourself to think that you could make a perfect ring the very first time you ever made it. And if you give yourself a little bit of grace about not being too perfect, I think you'll probably end up loving making jewelry a lot more than you would have, of course, if you tried to be perfect every single time. So thank you so much for joining me here today. I hope you guys enjoy all of the Jewel School 2024 workshops with all of our other artists. I am not the only one here. We have a lot of artists and a lot to share with you guys. So enjoy all those workshops, and I will see you guys again really soon.